We'll now take a look at the control panel inside the Matrix. Vector monitor, which is for our inverter. Now with this monitor, we have the off-on button on the right. If we press this on, that will then tell us how much voltage is in the inverter. To the left of that we have the load, so this will tell us how much load is getting put on the inverter at any time. We have the watts, which tells us the wattage, what is getting put on the inverter. And then on the left we have the voltage, so this will tell us how many volts we have in the inverter and how many is getting used at any time. And to switch it off, we just go back to the first button, press it again, and that will switch it off. We will now take an in-depth look at the BM1 compact monitor. Now with this monitor, it comes as standard in the Matrix Pop Top and the Aurora, but it is an optional extra in the Quantum and Quantum Plus. So with the monitor, if we look at the display that we've got now, the top one is telling us how many volts we have in the batteries, and the bottom one is telling our discharge rate in the amperage. So this is how much load is on the batteries now in amps. If we press the first button, which is time, this will then go onto a different display, and this will show us at the top the percentage that is left in our batteries, and below how many hours are left in the batteries. Also to the right it has a little display as well, which is the same for the percentage of how much is in the batteries. So if we press V and A this time, this will take us back to our original screen, and once again that is the voltage and the amperage that is on the batteries. Down here we have the toilet tank gauge. It has the read button, which will tell us how full the tank is. In the middle is the diesel heater dial, and this operates the temperature of the diesel heater. And lastly we have the tank gauges, which will tell us front and rear how full they are. Down at the bottom is the switchboard, and we have as lights for awnings, external lights, the fridge, the water pump, and our main on-off switch. As we enter the Matrix, down at the bottom on the right hand side we have the fire extinguisher. This is used in the case of emergency on fires. We'll now take a look at the 3-burner cooktop, which comes as standard in the Matrix. With this cooktop, lift the lid up and you will see we have 3 separate burners. We also have 3 flame controllers for each burner. Now, a key point to remember with this is if you have any problems with the igniter does actually have a battery in it. If we screw this off anti-clockwise, you'll see there is a battery. That is always the first port of call if you have any problems with the igniter. Moving on from the stove, we have the sink area. This has a hot-cold tap mixer. And then we will look at the ensuite shower. This option has the added mirror. We'll push in the tabs at the top and bottom, and this allows us to open the door, and we can see our ensuite shower and toilet. We'll now take a look at the Matrix fridge. This fridge is a 110 litre capacity fridge. Now with the fridge, it does have a locking tab on the top. We've got to remember to put this on when travelling because it could come loose. As an extra precaution, we do put on the bungee loop, and this basically stops the tab from coming off, so it cannot open when we are travelling. So to open the fridge, we'll take the loop off, flick the catch over, and the fridge will now open. As we can see inside the fridge, there's plenty of storage. You have your compartments on the door and your shelving inside, and also at the top it does have a freezer compartment, and also a tray at the bottom for storing vegetables, fruit, etc. And that is the Matrix fridge. Once again, when closing, remember to push the tab over and then always attach the bungee loop, and this will stop the door from being able to open. We will now take a look at the hot water system switch. This switch can be switched on at 60 degrees and 70 degrees. Also, a good thing with the hot water system is it has a fault light, so if we switch it down, you will see that a red light will appear after a few seconds to indicate that there is a fault. Now this fault is because we haven't turned the gas on and the hot water system cover is not taken off, so you must remember to do this to ignite the hot water system. Here we have the hatch inside the dining area. Inside this hatch we can see that we have 2 taps. These taps are to switch between the front and rear tank. Here we have the rear tank, and this one is shut off, the front one is on. It's a good option to use the front first because the rear tank draws for the toilet, so always use the front one before we switch to the rear. We will now take a look underneath the front seat. So underneath the front seat we have the diesel heater, which is situated at the front right hand side. We have the hot water system, our Oz charger for our batteries, the water pump is also underneath there, and we have our 2 water filters. We'll now take a look underneath the rear seat. Underneath the rear seat hatch we have the AGM batteries, which are as standard. We have the red arc charger. We have a low voltage disconnect. Here is the projector inverter, and here are our fuses. Also, with this section we have a hatch on the front which allows us quick access to reach in for the circuit breakers. This is an easy alternative instead of taking the seat off each time. So here we have our fantastic fan. Now for the fan to work we have to turn this wheel which opens the hatch. The fan will not operate unless this is opened. So once this is open we then decide whether we want to draw air into the van or out of the van. We turn on the speed and here we have a temperature gauge. So here we have the positive air pressure vent. This allows air into the van. It is also filtered through the filter which can be taken out and cleaned. Here we have a smoke detector. A smoke detector is fitted in all our vans as standard. With the smoke detector you can drop it down, which allows access to the battery, which should be changed every 12 months. Now inside the Matrix we have the radio, which is situated in the overhead compartment. This radio comes as standard with the Matrix. As standard in the Matrix we have the overhead compartments. These compartments have 2 buttons. If we press in on the buttons it releases them and allows us to get into the cupboard. To shut the cupboard we should always check this when travelling. Make sure all the buttons are shut, as we do not want the doors to open and close. As standard on the Matrix we have 2 plug-in points for the inverter and 2 plug-in points for the mains. We also have an extra internal TV port. We'll now take a look at the standard Sirocco fan, which is fitted to all our vans as standard. With the fan there is a lever on top. If we lift up the lever we can move the fan to whichever angle we need. Also with the fan it can rotate 360 degrees. The fan has 3 settings, different speed settings. So if we look at the buttons underneath we have a button at the front and a button at the back. The button at the front controls the speed and the button at the back controls the timer, which we have 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours and 8. If we press the button at the front that will change the speed and also switch off the fan. With the fan it comes with the 12 volt socket which plugs into the overhead compartment here. If we want to remove the fan we pull the plug out of the socket and lift the bracket off. Good thing to remember is when travelling always remove the fan, as it could vibrate off and come loose or fall off. We are now inside the Matrix. Now inside the Matrix and the Matrix Pop Top, underneath the bed we have 6 drawers as standard. Now with these drawers they have the push button lock. So with these, if we push the button in, that means that the drawer can now come out. When we close the drawer, to lock it we just push the clip back in and now the drawer is locked. We are now inside the Matrix. In the Matrix as standard it comes with 2 reading lights. These are situated at the head of the bed, one on either side. Now with this light, if we press on the clear bit, that will bring the light on, and then we press again to turn the light off. And with these they will move to the desired angle, and also they come with a clip, and this helps to lock the light in when travelling.